Hello, everybody. We got a capture card, which is great. So we've got the nice camera. FPS isn't necessarily super smooth, as you can see from my arms. But this is such a big improvement. I don't feel embarrassed by doing it on a really crappy Logitech webcam, which is great. Today we're going to talk about... Sorry, face. We're going to be talking about some questions from the Neuroscience Practice video where people were like, okay, well, there were so many questions. Like, how does this help with speed was, I think, kind of like the big thing. Or like, you can never play, something that you're practicing at speed if you never expose yourself to that speed. And this video that we're doing live is the answer to that. And I'll do a more in-depth video on this at some point. One sec. Fan in the background. So we're going to do a more in-depth video on this at some point. But for now, we're going to do it live, which is great. And I'm going to start by going over some of the tools that I use. And when will the second part of the video be released? We'll get there. So this session is going to be tools, and then it's going to be the structure of practice, and then it's going to be me actually doing some of my fundamentals so you can see how I'm doing that. We have a question from Mr. Sean. And the question is, when will the next video be released? Next video release. I literally filmed everything in February, and then I had a lot of imposter syndrome come up. And then I learned some more things. My neuroscience binder is right here. And so we've continued reading and learning and everything. And I felt like the video was good as is, but it was not great. So we are making it great, and it is... I'm so glad I redid it. I'm still in the scripting process. I also had a big marketing gig opportunity come up this week, so that's taken some more time from me, but I'm hoping to get a lot of scripting done on the weekend and hopefully film before going away for Thanksgiving on, I don't know when, 28th or something. Hoping to get it done. So, all that out of the way, yes, this will be captured on YouTube later, so you can view the archive. So, first tool, this is not a tool you need, but it's a tool that I have been really liking, and it's a DRETEC, DRETEC, and it's a little count up timer. And all of these tools I'm going to show you are available on like your phone, right? But the phone has many other tools, including social media, which are just massively distracting. So it's worth it to pay $10 or however much this is, right, to get some dedicated tools. So this is a count up timer. And I know that in order for this to be accurate, as long as it's on, I have to be practicing, or I have to be actively resting, which we'll get into kind of what that looks like. So count up timer. So we're going to start that now. So now it's counting up by the second. The second tool that you should have is just a kitchen timer. You can get these on Amazon. They should cost like 20 cents, but of course they're like $5 or whatever. But this is an extremely helpful tool. There's a great study if you want to go look it up. It's called something interleaved practice. If you just search interleaved practice clarinet, you'll probably find it. It's on PubMed, and basically what they did is they took two groups of students, and they said, hey, or like professional players, and they said, hey, we want you to play, we want you to practice for these 3-minute intervals, and then switch to something else, and then switch to part C, and then switch to part D, and all this. So, and then they had the other group of students, which they were like, hey, just practice however you want. And they played the same music, and then they put them before a jury, and the people who played with the timer performed superior. So the timer is a fantastic tool because it creates urgency, and it tells us when to move on, which results in higher brain engagement, and then we learn better. The next tool that is very good to have is a metronome. I like having a physical metronome. This is a Boss DB60. I quite like the sound on it. And almost never am I using the subdivisions. I like generating my own subdivision by counting, and obviously from experience, I think it's if you're doing a lot of relying on something outside of you to do the subdivision, then you're not building that ability up in yourself. A while back, we had a very cool tool called the Randonome, which I'm going to rebuild. I still have the code for it. And it would randomly drop out the beats. And so it might be like 1, 2, 6, 7, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And so you'd have to really do a good job of keeping your own timing. And the last tool that you're going to want to have for this is, well, I guess there's 2 tools, but paper. You're going to want to have paper. So a big thing downstairs, I wish I brought one up here. I don't want to break the continuity of the stream, though. I have done time tracking on myself for over 3 years in specifically with my business life. And because I have 3 years of journals which show to the time block of maybe 15 minutes would be the smallest time block. Because I have that information, what I do every 3 to 6 months is I'll take that book. The specific book I use is called Self Journal by Best Self Co. I'll look through that book and I will look at the activities that like wasted my time. I'll look at the ones that were the most like productive in terms of like money generation activities and all that. And through that, I have generated a list of over like 22 rules for myself, operating principles. I'm just pulling the live screen up on the other thing here. Make sure it's all good. Could somebody give me like a thumbs up to make sure that like audio is synced, like the picture looks good, and levels are good? Could somebody do that for me? That'd be great. Pop it in chat. Because I've done that time tracking myself for so long, I know like exactly what I should be working on and not working on, what I should hire out and not hire out and all that. So the big difference with what I do with time tracking versus what virtually everybody else teaches you with time tracking is I actually do my time tracking retroactively. My personality type is such that if I like get up and I look at my Google Calendar and it's got like hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes here, like I just, it's too much for me. I don't like being strapped in like that. I could probably afford to have a better system. Thank you guys for confirming quality. I could probably afford to have a better system, but I get up and I prioritize what needs to be prioritized basically. And then I go and I choose something I'm going to work on. And then I write, after I've worked on it, then I write it in. Okay. So this is practicing journal. It's just one of those cheapo notepads. So I'll just read off, let's go to a day where I actually did like a lot of practice. Let me flip back here. Hey Shade, what's up? I got your email. Cool. 7 p.m. Tuesday. Sorry, let's find a day where I did. Okay, yeah, here's a day. Here's the day where I did 5 hours. That was a legendary day. All right. On 9/6. It's 9/7. Where to start? I'll show this to the camera here in just a second. It's 5:30. Yeah, it was 9/6. Okay, on 9/6 at 2 p.m., I did song study and massive tab download. So another thing with practicing is you're not necessarily on 200% of the time. Like, it's impossible. And sometimes there's just what I call musical tasks that you need to take care of. A musical task is something like, hey, I just bought a new drum library that's 100 gigs and I need to get it installed. That's going to take you like an hour or something. You're going to have to use some of your focused attention to decide where that library is going to go. Maybe you want to load it up in your DAW and like check out some of the sounds. Maybe you got to just do some sound replacement. Maybe you need to, just like download a bunch of tabs like I did. It's not necessarily time on the instrument, but it is musical time where if you're wanting to do this professionally and you spend an hour of your day learning about how DMX works and how to do lights, well, when somebody is going to hire you and bring you in on a band situation, you're like, hey, I play guitar, but I also know how to do light shows. They're going to be like, dude, whoa, you know how to do light shows? And you become the pick. I'm telling you, the more like skills that you can bring beyond just playing guitar, to any band situation, you are going to be infinitely more valuable. So much more valuable. So then I worked on Hey Yeah, very easy song, and I worked on Pink Pony Club. So that took an hour and 20 minutes to just download a whole bunch of tabs, and then I worked on those two songs. And then I wrote 5:20 p.m. main session. I'm going to break this down, and then we'll get into structure. So I know this is a little scattered at the moment. I wrote main session, diagonals, and then I wrote 2 and 2, which is a Mike Mangini kind of exercise that I've been applying to guitar. And I write down the exercise, and then I write how long I did it for. So I did diagonals for 5, and that's one we're going to do today. And then I did two numbers twice for 10. And then I wrote mind separation / syncopated counting. This one's really wild. Maybe I'll show it to you guys. 4 fingers ascending against 6, and then 4 fingers ascending against 7. And I worked on that for 10 minutes. And then I did 3s to 4s, which will be the third video in the picking series. Really cool exercise. I don't know if I'll show you it today. I've kind of showed it on social media some. And then I did 160 BPM up to 108 BPM, but the 108 is a half. So I went up from 160 up to 216 beats per minute. And then I wrote a little note for myself. So one of the things that I've started doing with these journals as well is writing in what my mental state is after I practice. And then I also started not just writing the date, but I also write down the time that I start, because the marketing work tends to still be kind of the main thing for me at the moment. Even working on this channel, I kind of see as like marketing work, like scripting videos and things. It's time that's not on the guitar is what it is. The practice tends to fall in more the cracks in my day, especially like I tend to be kind of an evening practicer. But as time has opened up a little bit more, where it's like, okay, I can practice at 11 a.m. in the middle of the day, I'm writing down what time I feel drawn to the instrument and to do my practice. Because among high performers, one of the things that you'll find that different people have different ideal times that they like to work at. Some people like to work at right in the morning, super early. Some people, I don't know a lot of people who it's afternoon. Some people are like late. It's usually morning or late. It's one of those two usually. But finding those times, now generating a backwards record instead of trying to use willpower to stick myself to a forwards planned thing. And there is some forward planning to this, which I'll show you with the index cards here in a second, which isn't a horribly complicated system. Because I'm creating a backwards record, when I go and I look at this record and I extract the patterns that have been generated by natural activity instead of by willpower, it becomes much easier for me to say, oh, it looks like over the past 3 months, I got a lot of work done between 10 and 12. Okay, well, why don't we make my practice window, my morning practice window, start at like 10 a.m. or 10:30 or 11, something in there, right? Oh, it looks like I get a lot of work done at 7 p.m. Or like, hey, there's 3 sessions in here where I started at 5 p.m., but I felt tired. Okay, well, maybe, 5 p.m.'s not the one to use. Okay, great. Do 7, do 9. All right. And then I wrote, so we did 5:20 p.m., and then I did a lot of 3s to 4s. So diagonals, 2 and 2, mental separation of counting, and then speed exercises for like an hour and a half. So that was a total of 2 hours. Took a break. I think I got dinner. And then 8:30 p.m., I wrote session 2, 30 minutes, perfect pick slanting exercises, 3 notes per string. And then I did 125 BPM, hop into 3 strings, turn scales. I did 35 minutes of scales, and then I did 30 minutes of hard practice, and then I did 20 minutes on music. So the big dichotomy that I want to get to you today is that there's 2 major chunks to my practicing, even if it's spread over in this example as like 5 hours. There's what I call Fundies practice, or fundamentals, and I'll tell you where Fundies comes from in a second, because it's a fun little word. And then there is music practice. The video that is the Neuroscience of Practicing for Speed covers the music, the second half of practice, which is working on music. Now, one of the comments that, like I said earlier, that I got on that video was, oh, well, if you haven't, done XYZ speed, how can you, you can't do it. It's like, there's things that you can achieve at a fundamental level that might be harder to do in a musical example and a musical excerpt, and I'll show you an isolated example of that. And you can extract those things from the music, turn them into exercises, which I'm going to show you the details of how to do that, because everybody's talked about it, but nobody's told you how to do it. What does that mean? Do I just play the same measure over and over again? That's what ISO practice is, which I'm working on a little guide for that, but there's more that we can do. So, tools, recap, count up timer, keeps you on track. If you're not practicing and you're looking at social media, slap it off, turn it off. You're not practicing. And then at the end of the day, you get to, like I did on this day, show that it had 5.5 hours, which is really cool. You're going to want paper, and this is a retroactive log. You decide what you're going to do. You do it for the time on the timer. Maybe you do a couple reps on the timer, 5 sets of 3 minutes or whatever. That's 15. Write down the exercise, write down 15 minutes. Then you move on to the next thing. And now you have a retroactive practice log that you can look back at. And as you have all that data, you can make a much more useful routine than trying to willpower it out. And you can use that in like your business life too. Metronome, there's an online one that I use called metronome-online.com, which I really like. And then just another little pro tip. I love, as you know, the Dunlop Flow 2.0s. Love these picks. They also wear out really fast. Specifically, I will take calipers and I will measure them. And after they're at 0.2 millimeters worn down, I found that my accuracy starts to suffer. So I will replace them during that. So I have a bunch of picks just sitting right below my computer. And these Stringjoy acrylic ones, I would love to tell you that they last longer, but they're significantly more expensive. And they just, I'm sorry, you guys, they don't last that much longer. But having a pick that is maybe a little bit worn down when you're just going and just grinding the crap out of it, you can save yourself a little bit of money. So, two sides of this. There's fundamentals and there is music. So, let's see. Another tool that I use very frequently is index cards. So if you have a specific set of exercises that address fundamental issues that you're having in music side of practice, write out what that series of exercises are on an index card, and then you can just keep it on your desk, and then you don't have to think so much actively about, I've got to play this exercise, I've got to play that exercise, I've got to play this exercise, I've got to play that exercise. So that's that. The next thing is that you might have gone out in various places on the internet and downloaded some type of warm-up routine from somebody. And one of the things that I have found that warm-up routines frequently don't address is ascending and descending. Those are different motions for the hand. So they're different motions for the hand. Hey, my logo was buried. Let's put that up there. Different motions for the hand. So what might happen is that you're like, well, I was playing arpeggios in my warm-up, but then when I have to go play arpeggios in music, when I'm working on this song, I can't do it. It's like, oh, well, it's because the song has a bunch of descending arpeggios, and your warm-ups only have ascending arpeggios. So if there's any big questions so far for kind of this structure of fundamentals practice and music practice, go ahead and put them in the chat now, and we'll take a little breather and we'll answer those. I'm going to get kind of set up and check levels for things. Tuning. Also, I'll show you a quick trick for tuning. If you use a non-locked floating bridge guitar like this, and you have 2 or 3 strings that are sharp, just knock everything down like a quarter turn flat. And then let's say everything is at like between -20 and -10. Bring everything up to -10, and then bring everything up to -5, and then bring everything up to 0, instead of going from -20 right to 0, and you will land like right in tune because you won't have brought up any one string so much higher than the others that then you have to backtrack. So tuning. So E is like super sharp right now. A is super sharp. D is +3. I'm all the way at G flat. But when I bring G up, I'll go to -20. Then it'll make E from positive 20 down to like +10. So -10 on B, -10 on E. Check from the bottom again, doesn't matter. E is at +6. A is -4. -10, I'll go to -5 on D, ish. -5 on G, about 0. Okay, now I'm about ready to go to 0. So I didn't touch E, it's at +4 now. A is started at 8, 0. -5 up to 0. -4 up to 0. It's a little sharp. B's right in tune. E at 0. And now that low E is actually flat. See, I didn't touch it till the end though. And now we're just polishing. And if somebody can give me a thumbs up in chat if full blast on this sound is not too loud. All right, let's do questions, and then we'll get into actually doing this. Matt, you're highly structured in everything, and you believe this is an essential component of musical growth. I think so. I think the structure is an essential component of musical growth. If you want to, there's this constant dichotomy of like people who are like, you don't need to do ear training, or you don't need to learn music theory, or like, just like whatever technique you form is right. And it's like, well, one thing that nobody's talking about is most of the people who we talk about who are these virtuoso, incredible guitar players, the average starting age, I have a spreadsheet, coming video on virtuosos and starting age and the difference between how adults learn and how kids learn. It's going to be fascinating. We're going to look at which brain structures develop at on which timelines. The truest answer is it depends on your musical goals. Every year, at the end of the year, and I think that this habit, which I'm about to tell you about, comes more so out of a human desire to avoid pain than necessarily it does so much come out of one to achieve at a certain level. And I got this from Tim Ferriss in 2017, and I still have my very first sheet that I did of this exercise. And it's called Year in Review. And you write Year in Review, and then you divide it in 2. And you write down, you look at your calendar. I use Google Calendar. And I write down all the bad stuff that happened that really hurt and I didn't like. And I write down all the good stuff that happened. And then below that, then I write down kind of goals and what do I want to accomplish for the year. Usually just doing that will eliminate so much pain from your life. It's great. That's why even though I'm talented with cameras and audio and things, I never, ever will ever work on a short film again. Those were always the worst group projects in college. So, but on those sheets for, I think, 3 or 4 years, my musical goal has been to play 2 solos, the As I Am solo and the Stream of Consciousness solo. To do those solos, and especially starting guitar at the age I did, which I started bass at 10. So, I have good left-hand fundamentals built up, but I've had to do a ton of work, so much work, still working on right hand. In order to approach those solos requires this level of organization for me. For your own goals, it may not require that. If your goal is to play in a cover band, It doesn't require necessarily this level of sophistication that I use with my approach to things. So that's my answer. The level of organization and structure is dependent upon your musical goals. And that's always what the answer is going to be. Even if you want to join perfect picking, you don't have to go to 200 BPM. It may be all that you want to do is go to 150. Great. That's your musical goal. And I'm not going to tell you that you are unless it's a Dream Theater cover band, that you're any less of a guitar player than I am. Like, never would I do that. Okay, great. Next question. Developers fatigue. Continue to repeat or slow down. Mitchell, let's talk about that in the group. And if you could post a video in the group, then I'll look at it and I'll get back to you with 3s to 4s. The next question is, there's another YouTuber who talks about neuroscience and guitar. I think his channel is called XYZ. What do you think about him? I think somebody commented this and they were like, someone ripped off your video. And I was like, I looked at the video. I was like, they quoted like one study, bro. Also, there's enough room for everybody. Like, there's like this, if you like start to get into business, there's a lot of like these early business advice, like, oh, you got to look at your competition. It's like, no, just start making stuff. There's plenty of room for another 3, 5, 100 more guitar teachers to pop onto YouTube, because the reason that any one particular person chooses a teacher is not just because of necessarily the quality of the instruction. They choose a teacher because they like their voice, or they like how that person looks and sounds and what kind of music they're into. I, of course, work very hard on my instruction and try to present it in a way that is not just, quality instruction, but presented in a way which is aligned with good teaching principles. For example, a big pet peeve of mine is when people like flash stuff on the screen. I literally had a teacher who was a PhD candidate at the time in college. It was Master's Opera History, which was the most mind-bending class I think I ever took in my life, beyond music history or music theory 4, which had like 12-tone rules and all that. And he would have his slideshow, and he would talk and talk and talk, and then he would say, okay, now read the slide. And then he would stop, he would step aside, and he would allow people to read the slide. And what I learned from him is that you can't read one thing and then be hearing something separate at the same time and process all of it. So that's those things. So now we're going to get into playing. Nobody's yelled at me for this being too loud, so this is what we're going to roll with. I like doing exercises generally on a clean tone when I'm getting up to like the very highest bit of speed. Like, if I'm getting up to like, 6 tuplets or whatever, let's do it again now on a clean tone. Come on. Not bad. The motions naturally get a little bit smaller, and depends on your level of speed. Okay, so it's not that at 130 BPM is the exact right time to switch over to a high gain tone. But when you're starting to get to that point where there's enough drop off on the pick attack, that I think is the point where you're going to switch over. I mean, if you took the DI of like freaking John Petrucci playing, whatever, yeah, the attacks are going to be much smaller on the parts where he's going at his very fastest. That's just physics. Okay. So typically what I start my sessions with is these days is the exercise from the left hand video. And I've used this as what I call my calibration exercise for a very long time. And it is the diagonals exercise. That one. Now, there's a gazillion ways to mix it up, and because I've done the exercise forever, these days I'm typically mixing it up with and doing the string skips, which is like extra challenging. First couple exercises I don't necessarily tend to do with a metronome. And then as I'm getting into more structured exercises, then I will. So I'm not going to interrupt myself and talk a bunch as I do these next things. I'll do some light commentary in between. But I'm going to do 5 minutes of diagonals, and then probably what I'll move to is some Steve Morse arpeggios, which are ascending arpeggios. And then I will probably do a newer exercise that I've been piloting, which I call desk arps, or descending arpeggios. And then I'll show you some isolated musical practice. So as far as accuracy tolerance on these, 80-90% if I really mess something up. Then I'll go back and I'll do that little rep again. But my goal is not necessarily like ultra specific speed increases, right? I'm just trying to get my hands, hey, this is what the guitar is again today. Desk arps goes like this. There's 2 arpeggio patterns. This is the three note per string one. If I can play. And then we just descend. And actually, now before we start this, because you're going to see me do it the entire time I do all these exercises, the 2 ways in which you can extrapolate challenges that you have in music and turn them into exercises. What was it? Chromatics and repetition. Those are the 2 ways that you do it. So let's say, for example, let me think of like something I've been playing. Let's say that you're playing that little lick from Follow from Halo. Well, what you could do is, let's say that lick only appeared for 2 measures, and then you're back to like. Well, you'd have a challenge in that, okay, well, do I just sit there and just play? Do I just play that over and over for 20 minutes? It's like, no, you'd get super bored. And the other problem with it is that if you play it in a bunch of other places around the neck, then you get better at a more fundamental level rather than just in the context of music. And when you get better at a fundamental level, then when you go in and you're exposed to new challenges in music, you have effectively a larger library of movements that you can work with, and then your ability to learn new music more quickly increases. That is our goal with this kind of first half of everything. So, for example, let's take that one. There it is. Let's move it up. Now I'm just repeating. First pattern. Now, the thing I'm getting hung up on is... So I'm going to stop and look at the pick strokes. Outside. Outside again. Inside. So I've moved it up from here. I've squeezed out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 9 different versions of it just by chromatically shifting it around. You can, of course, move it lower as well. So that would be how we can get repetitions, and then we can get also using the chromatic and the repetitions. So if I do diagonals, oh, you know what the other thing we didn't do on that one is we only played it on 2 strings. We've got 6 strings on the guitar. Let's move it to a much harder place, which is lower strings, which I tend to find kind of induce a little bit more movement from picking. So you set a timer for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. You're not letting your brain get stuck in this little rut of like, I just have to play this thing over and over again. All of a sudden, it becomes fundamentals. And I'll point out something kind of funny is most of the soloing that you see from players is actually many times a derivative of the fundamentals that they work on over and over again. It's been about 2 weeks since I like really practiced because I've just been going hard on everything else. But I looked at Gemini. Let's see if I remember. Nope, I don't remember any of it. But there's an exercise from JP's first video. It's all this chromatic stuff. And I had like worked on that like, I don't know, a year and a half ago or whatever. And then I started looking at Gemini, and it's like, and it's just like, that's not, yeah, it's a chromatic run in the solo or whatever. But at the same time, it's also just fundamentals that he's already exposed himself to a gazillion times up to like, I don't know what he played it in the video at, like 210 or something ridiculous, which was fun. Water time. Is this making sense for how we can take pieces out of the music and turn them into exercises in a strategic way, which is we can move them onto different strings, potentially exposing ourselves to slightly different finger patterns like I did with the follow one, because that uses 3 strings actually. Da, 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 da. And then we can chromatically shift them. And what's the third way? And then we can repeat as well, and you can just loop the same kind of pattern. Cool. As far as reverb, by the way, I like a little bit of reverb. Just sounds like I'm in a empty stage or whatever. It's more inspiring to me. Up to you if you want to use it. I feel that my awareness on my pick attacks is good enough where it doesn't necessarily distract. It just sounds a little dry if you try to do it without. And it's just gone, right? So that's that. Let's do some warm-ups now after yapping for 35 minutes. So I'm going to reset my little timer here, and I'll just be practicing, and here we go. Minute and a half to run through that. Now we'll do the skippy one, which I can do a lot slower. And we're going to do it descending, which is like kind of the harder one. Last string is a little bit chopped. Focus on it for next fret. Changing focus to focus on the set of 4 strings that this goes across and making sure that I'm not just thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, but seeing it as kind of a more, the pick motion is this almost figure 8 kind of thing. Oh yeah, that, seeing that sets of 4, 1, 2, 3, and then when you shift back up to the top set, visualizing all the strings as like this shift onto those 4, seeing those as the active strings and the bottom 2 in this case going away. That's what I'm trying to like get my mind to do. I forgot where I was. Lowest one's hardest. mental glitch on the fingering shift, but not a actual playing glitch. Hit all the strings. 6 minutes on that, and fine, pretty good. Now I will move to arpeggios, which typically I do as, Fundies. Oh yeah, I didn't tell you guys where Fundies comes from. When I was at University of Cincinnati, we had to doing what's called passing off, which means you pass on a certain scale book. I forgot what it was. It was scales and descending arpeggios, 2-octave scales and ascending, descending arpeggios. And you would come in every 2 weeks or whatever, and then the lady who ran it just called it Fundies. So that's where Fundies comes from. Now I'm going to do the Steve Morse things, ascending stuff. Actually, one thing I actually want to do is I want to touch on some single strings. And this is where I'm going to use my other practice tool, which is a mirror. There's secret exercises inside of perfect picking that go over different things than the mirror that are very powerful. But for today, I'm just going to use a mirror, and I'm positioning it so I can see my hand, and I'm making sure that my movement is correct. And I'm just going to run through some single string scales, see how I'm doing. I'm going to go, 140, 150. And this is such a great exercise because a lot of people, when they go for speed, they go wrist, 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 arm, right? I know I'm not going to do it at 150 or whatever, but I can still check in on it, get that feeling, and then also it's a great exercise for shifts and attack. All different places I can bring my mind to as I do this. And I'll run through all strings, major, maybe minor. I was watching my hand, my left hand, now watch right hand in the mirror. Losing a lot of just volume. It's just because of the nature of this. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to this. Dragging a little bit, coming down. That's what I'm looking for. You can also check out exploring your palm muting with that. So that aspect of my playing feels like it's functioning well today. I don't need to sit there and work it up with Metronome. So now we'll go into arpeggios. First thing I'm going to do is I usually take about 2 minutes, and I'm just going to watch my motion and what is going on there to make sure I'm not doing anything ridiculously unhelpful. pattern. I'm going to bet this is a pick issue, so I'm going to go to my nicer pick that isn't as worn down. Look at that. Cool, that's 2 minutes of motion, and now we'll add a metronome, and this is one that I actually do want to work on increasing speed. So this one I do in triplets. I think the highest I've ever done is maybe 160 or maybe probably 170. So let's see, 154. Little high to start out with. We'll do 136. That'll be definitely within range, and we'll move up quickly, and then we'll move up a little more slowly. Helps if I turn the metronome on. Oh, and our first working on speed is coming, working up any of these exercises instead of just kind of getting used to the guitar. We're at 13 minutes in, so there we go. Good. Next set. Kind of peaceful to do it on a clean tone, isn't it? 154. Going to go up by 6 because the next jump on my little, Preset metronome is like 180 or 170, so 154 up to 160 now. Wrong shift. Losing the middle ones. Pick slipping. We'll go up to 166, and I'm going to switch on to distortion tone. And one of the things that'll happen when you go from clean tone to distortion tone is it'll even out the articulations, but also if you're playing. If you're not muting things correctly, then that'll really stick out here. So I don't remember what I've done this on. It's been a while since I really practiced. But see, we've been working on this for 5 minutes. And we've gone from 134 up to 166, 30 BPM increase. And that's not a 30 BPM increase in like my new top, like I'm reaching a new top speed. No, I'm calibrating myself back to baseline where like a solid level of performance is. Usually when I take time off, which has just happened lately, it usually takes me about 3 days in a row of like solid hour fundamental sessions, maybe hour and a half, to get back where I'm like, okay, I feel good again. Maybe 4. It's been a while. So here we go, 166. See if I can do it. My timer got stopped. Here we go. Losing the middle notes again. I'm going to go back to clean. We'll go to 170. Shifts, brain. Try 175. Maybe we'll get to 180 today. Top. $175 is pretty good for today. Now, as you practice, a lot of people are like, no tension, tension is bad. No tension, without tension. Bro, you're going to have tension. And it's not about the total elimination of tension. That is the myth. The reality is managed tension. So, as you do things, you're going to build up more and more tension in your body. If you sit at a desk, muscles are going to shorten. If your arms are bent like this, I've learned that your triceps will keep your arm like this. That's how I'm doing today. Pretty good. Pretty good. But if your tricep is really tight, if your tricep is really tight, your arm will hang like this. You can see I'm pretty much straight, just end range of motion. But if your arm is at a desk all day like this, things are going to get tight. They're going to shorten. And thanks. Yeah, worked hard on the hand motion thing. Obviously. Things will shorten and tighten. So usually that's when I'll take my timer, and I've been yapping for about a minute or maybe a minute and a half here. And I will set the guitar down. And, I don't know, get a drink of water. Flip through social media for a minute. See who's yelling at me to do things. Always just teasing when I say that. But, shake it out. Oh, look, my timer died too. Thanks. Stretch. I don't know, whatever. You're going to have some tension increase. Manage tension. It's like, and you'll notice one thing, like when I'm playing exercise, generally I'm going continuously. But if I get off, I just pause for a beat or two and I get back on. So, success or failure on an exercise is not, at least in this context, for most stuff, is not determined by playing continuously for 2 minutes or however long you do it. And today I've just been doing things by metronome. I haven't been using timer cutoffs on things. I'll use timer cutoffs on the later exercises I'll show you. That one has a definite start and a definite end point. I reset my own timer. I wonder if that's what I did. Where was I going? I haven't eaten lunch, and it's 6, so yeah, it's pretty steady. Yeah, Shade, if you make your own composition, then yeah. That's the worst thing, is when you come up with something cool, but it's hard to play, and then you have to torture yourself with your own exercise. And by the way, my timer's still running. This is like active rest. And then sometimes what will happen is, like, the last set we did was ascending Steve Morse arpeggios at 175. Take a 2-minute break, 3-minute break, whatever it is. Sometimes it's 5. Then you come back and pick up the guitar again, and then a lot of times it's better. So let's see if that holds true. I was kind of missing those middle notes, so we'll see if I'm not missing them now. Cool. Now we're going to move on to desk arps. I'm going to do the 4-string version, which is harder. So I always do these up here because there's just so little. So a little sound coming out. I just go ahead and use this right away. So let's see where I'm at today. The 4th string is harder for me, so that goes. That's the 4th string version. So here we go. Talamin Zhao, I will get to your question soon. So this one, the progression, I usually start at fret 22. And then I progress down until I'm touching fret 12 and then back up. But for this one, just to demo, I'll use timer for 2 minutes along with the metronome, so you can see how you can use the timer along with the metronome to force yourself to progress through, because this is one that I tend to mess up a little bit more. But again, as you practice it on a timeline scale of 2 or 3 or 6 months, or like I've been doing diagonals for probably 4 years at this point. On that level of time scale, you do get better at these things. So you have to consider error tolerance with that as well. So here we go. 2 minutes on. A little too fast to start. 120. Reverb. That's 2 minutes. Typically, I use a 1 minute and 20 seconds. You can do 120, 130, whatever. 3 is super long. Okay, yeah. Next set, I'll go up by 6. It moves pretty fast. It's like, oh, you only went up by 6. It's like, 6 is a lot. 10 is too much. I'll say that. But 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. You go through that a couple times, you're at 140, 150 pretty quickly. In a couple minutes. Here we go. So another thing you can do with exercises is you can change how fast you change. So for example, if we did 2-note per string stuff, you don't have to just do 12 and 14. You could do 12 and 15, 12 and 16. If you're really crazy, 12 and 17. And mix up the patterns in all different ways. It's a really fun way to challenge yourself. And you can see that 120 rep of the desk arps was much rougher than the one at 126. So getting into an exercise can really help. So up 6 again puts me at 130. Oh, sorry, 132. Plus 6 is to 138, 132 up to 138. All right, I'm going to do this next one, and then we will answer some questions. 138, desk arps. Forgot to start the timer on that one. All right, cool. So getting, I don't want to say tension, but like feel a little bit of like repetition building up in that sense. So now's another good time. In the middle of that exercise, stopping at 138, I know I can get more, and I will get more. Set the guitar down for a little bit, answer some questions, and then what I'll do is I'll put this on count up timer. We'll see how long we answer questions for, and then we'll come back and we'll do the same thing. Apologies to my foreign language viewers who have to translate from English. I talk fast. All right, let's check this out. Hey, Matt, I just started learning guitar as a hobby. 3 months. Any advices for the beginning? Studying to play metal. Learn where the notes are. Watch the video called, let me see what it's called. 6-6. By the way, if anybody thinks there's any sort of lore to the channel name 466, there's no lore. It's just the default username, and I never changed it. Maybe one day. Watch the video, How to Memorize the Fretboard. Stop using shapes and patterns and do what is actually in that video, because that process is not an arbitrary process. It is not if you try to learn the notes by learning one string and then learning everything else relative to that string, your baseline knowledge of the guitar has what I call it, it's a very technical term I made up for myself. I call it a translation layer. You have to do one thing and then think about something else to get to your answer. That process allows you to build what I call innate knowledge, where if somebody asks you where F sharp is, it pops into the brain every possibility all at once without having to think, oh, G is the 3rd fret on the E string, and if I go 2 strings over and 2 frets up and then 1 fret back, that's going to put me at F sharp. The other thing that process does is you don't have to learn what sharps and flats are, because it's literally a machine learning or reinforcement learning inspired process where it's like, if you play the wrong note, you will immediately know if you got it wrong or right, and then you'll probably go slide to do it. And that exercise will put you through hundreds of repetitions, depending on tempo, right, in a 5-minute window or whatever. So it's a very, 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 I will say it's a highly thought out exercise. And I've had students learn the fretboard and remove those markers within 2 weeks of doing it. So if you actually commit to doing it, it should not take you very long. And then the second thing of that is just like people are like, how do I learn music theory? Get the apps on the phone and use them. Chet is free and it works. Just want to adjust this. And it's already got a pathway laid out for you, which is an excellent pathway. I think that they focus on harmonic dictation a little too much, like hearing something and then playing it back. It's just obnoxious to do. But if you get your chords and you get where your notes are memorized, and then you just use that little note app to click where the notes are, you're going to be able to look at music and then immediately recognize where it is on the guitar. And if that's your first step of learning this guitar journey, you're going to be able to learn music faster instead of being stuck looking at stupid tabs. And buy Guitar Pro. And tabs are useful. I use tab a lot, but notes allow you to analyze harmony and meaning. And when I'm memorizing songs, I'm not memorizing them by thinking, 17, 15, 14, 13, 22, 56, whatever. I'm not doing that. Like, maybe like riffs that are a little bit more like complicated, but like when I worked on Gemini, let me see if that whole thing, instead of trying to like nope, you're gonna kill yourself doing that. It's so hard. Okay, what I'm thinking when I'm working on that, I wrote it in on Guitar Pro in my part so I can memorize it that way, is I wrote C sharp major 7. And then I wrote like A7. And so now I go from having to use a translation layer and look at the string and go, oh, fret 3, over 2, up 2, back 1, that gives me fret this, and then having to think about F sharp. No, I'm just going F sharp. And you get all those really quickly. It's going to help you so much if you approach it that way. And like at the same time, have fun learning songs. If you want a fun song to learn, there's a really fun Naruto song. How'd it go? Like, it's fun to play that stuff. So go play and go have fun too. I would divide your practice into people who are beginners at something have much less focus that they can put onto something. So I would probably say if you get a solid like 20 minutes in a day, that's going to grow over time. But if you get those solid 20 focus minutes in a day on note identification exercises and maybe like single string scales, and you're working on your shifting and all the picking stuff. Of course, we have the course for that, perfectpickingcourse.com, which is very helpful for getting that motion right. And we're going to be adding some... Oops, battery died. One sec. We were prepared for this situation. Should pop right back on. Hey, yes, okay. Have fun, 20 minutes. So you get that first 20 minutes and you work really hard on those note identification exercises, the picking. Oh yeah, with perfect picking, I was going to say we're going to add some galloping exercises on there. They're not particularly sophisticated, but it is something that's going to have some specific coverage on it. So 20, 30 minutes. And then, if, middle of the day, lunch break, whatever, get some chat in, get some ear training kind of stuff in. That would be a fantastic path to start guitar with. And then I would probably get into either picking or left hand. And there's two things that you really need to get when it comes to left hand. The first thing that you need to get is bends do not come from doing this with your fingers. You're going to hurt yourself if you do that. Bends come from a static finger and using rotation. So you can see. And that's what I call a down bend, going towards the floor. And then there's up bends, and it has a slightly different finger placement. You can do it without the thumb. Okay, so it's not squeezing, okay? So I go over that in the bends video. So there's a position that you use for... those kind of bends, and then there's a different position that you use for diagonals, which I played at the beginning. Like, you're not going to ever play a change of seasons if you don't get your fourth finger and your hand position right. Like, it's got insane stretches. Like, let's see if I remember it. Good luck, okay? Anybody in the planet who's saying, classical position sucks and it's bad and it's stupid. Dude, go play a change of seasons, Carpe Diem. You won't be able to do it unless you got fourth finger. My run of it is perfect. And there's one comp. There's only one comp in that. And the comp is the slide at the very end. And the only reason I did it was I hit the note, but the note didn't come out very clean. And that's the only comp in that. Otherwise, my recording of Carpe Diem is solo, unaccompanied, perfect. So, that's fourth finger. All right, great. Back in 1 or 2 days, it seems to hit a brick wall. If you're hitting brick wall, okay, let's see. Next question. Have you ever researched anything related to how long it takes brain to get used to particular pattern motions without active stimulus? I'm asking because I'm ascending around from Bark at the Moon. After 1 or 2 days, I seem to hit a brick wall. The more I pushed, the less it felt like I get past it. Ah, yes. Let me think for a second. This is proprietary information. I've discovered secrets which none before have discovered on how to break these plateaus, which are very cool. So let me think about what I feel comfortable sharing, because this is going to go in the practice section of perfect picking. I'll give you something that's already out there but hasn't been discussed very much in the guitar community. And I'll give you a hint that there are additional variations on this, and these additional variations, which I created, already exist in perfect picking. So let's say, for example, you're playing, let's just take a scale, E major, 3-note per string, starting at fret 14. If you just sit there and you go, you're going to get better. Eventually what's going to happen is you hit a thing that's called overlearning. And so just like we discussed in the practicing video, your brain will form that pathway. And then what happens after that pathway does what's called stabilizes. It's like, okay, we figured this out. It's good enough. Then it actually protects that pathway from further change, which is a good thing, because if there's too much neuroplasticity in the brain, then you end up with brain diseases. So what you need to do is you need to break overlearning. Ways in which you can break overlearning are mixing it up. There's lots of different ways to mix it up. One of the very popular ways to mix it up is using what's called broken rhythms. So broken rhythms, instead of playing straight, you can use like a swing rhythm. And the funny thing about this is, let's say that you need to get to 140 BPM. You'll find that if you can play the swing rhythm to 130 or whatever, and then you go back to the target tempo, most of the time you can do it better, and you don't need to get the broken rhythms to quite to target tempo. Now, what's important about this is you need to do it both ways. So this is what I call second note fest. So that's the second note. Now, this is first note fest. First note fest. So those are some different ways that you can mix it up and break it up. And if you'd like more, highly encourage you to join Perfect Picking, and we have many more ways to break it up in there. Cool. The thing you need to get through is overlearning. Yes. All right, let's see. Scroll bar, where'd you go? Oh, there it goes. The dreams thing is very interesting. Yeah. Okay, great. We stopped desk arps at 138, so let's do some more. Practice timer is at 49 minutes. Another tip I'll give you is typically my my Fundies session is usually 40 to 60 minutes, and then I'll take a longer break, like 30 or the whole day, and then I'll come back in the evening. And then I'll hop into music. If it's 40, then I have some definite time to get into music. But generally, there's these things called ultradian rhythms. So just like we sleep in 1.5 hour cycles, we also have higher alertness in 1.5 hour long cycles, which we are right at 1 hour and 29 minutes in this stream. So we have these cycles that fluctuate, and this is really just advanced, and it's advanced to the point of it's not even worth getting into, and it's many people who come to me are engineers, programmers, those types of people who they want to figure out what the perfect way to do things are, and it's that's great. But the real world is messy. And you're not always necessarily going to feel like you're absolute most wakeful, when you practice or whatever. So those 1.5 hour sessions, you can break them into 45-minute-ish larger sections. So you might do a 50 and a 30, right? With maybe a 15-minute break in the middle. And that's your first hour and a half major chunk in the day. Also like a 45 and a 45, or, usually the first half session is longer than the second little part of it, but always kind of contained maximally, I think, within a 1.5 hour to 2 hour kind of window. Obviously, the big caveat to this is if you're working on something that's so much more intensive for the brain, then if you're working on something that's so much more intensive for the brain, you're going to be able to do that less, And if you're working on stuff that's really easy, like some cover band stuff, it's just... it's just kind of some simple song memorization and getting familiar with little things. You're going to be able to do that for much longer. So let's continue, and then we will answer some more questions. 138 desk arps. We did 138 last time. Then we're hopping back in. Now I'm going to go higher. Let's go 146. I need my timer. And this is about as much as I'm going to be able to squeeze out of that one for today. Now I want to show you like music that I'm actually working on, and how I took a pattern that I was running into in that, where I was like, why can't I do it? And go over how I broke it up. So, cool. So the end of the etude goes about like this. I'll do it with a metronome. So a little imperfect because I haven't worked on it in a minute. But there's a bunch of patterns going on there. Let's break it down. Scale. I can do that. Next thing, ascending arpeggio. Pretty comfortable because I isolated it. 5-string descending arpeggio 2-1-2. 2-1-2. 2-1-2. 2-1-2. And you got to do them back to back. And then we have a different pattern, which is 2-note per string, string skips, and ascending arpeggio only instead of ascending and... So I broke this up into many different exercises because I realized what the issue with playing that was not that I had an inability, my fundamentals did not expose me to all of those different patterns. It had exposed me to, which is totally different than this, and different than this. So, now I've, with straight extrapolation out of the music. Let's do, say, 130. We'll do the same process. I'm just going to do a minute to rip kind of through these. Isolating it pattern by pattern. Feeling good there, honestly. Let's go to 136. Target is 144. That's just sets of 30. Let's try 140. Adding this shape to my fundamental library. I'm getting monstrously tired and hungry. So we've isolated the arpeggio shape. Let's isolate the next one. Timer, 30. You're honestly never going to have to do that. Really, but. Okay, so if I try to sit here and do... That's... Yeah, I could sit there and work it up, but really the pattern is... So I can break it up a little bit differently. And just break it up like that, so... So it's another pattern. Next pattern, the hardest pattern. And there's more ways that I break it up than this, but we're going to be wrapping up here soon. Let's do 130, 136. For a minute. And we'll work it to overspeed, and then we'll put it back in context. Oh, I remember what I did on this. I actually made it into a repeating one. It's kind of more fun that way, actually. Oh, jeez. Getting familiar with it, slow, and then we can do a large speed increase and then get on kind of in the track of things and then do the slow increase. So maybe, do a minute or two at, 120, 110, and then we can go back up to like 130 and we'll be able to do it. $130. $136. It's 30 seconds in a row of that. $142. One more after this, and then we are at overspeed. We'll go to 146. I'm going to go at 144. One more, and this one's going to be real tough. 148. Haven't practiced in 2 weeks and no food in like 9 hours. If anyone wants to yell at me for quality, you do your live stream like that. It'll be fun. All right, 1 minute, and then we'll put it back in context. Two-minute break, and then we will do the thing. Play. You can see that I'm definitely going beyond what's like acceptably accurate, but there are glimpses of things that runs that are accurate. You know, there are times that are in there. It's not like the very last set of desk arps I did at 146. That one was totally falling apart. So that's not an area where you're like going to get better. So the approach to how you work on fundamental things is a little bit different than perfecting music, which when I kind of had that process down, which this etude is kind of the experimental dog for it. There's a bunch of things because it's like, how do you break those walls? You always get the same advice, and I wasn't happy with that, and so I started reading science like I do. And yeah, let me go grab the binder. Just for fun. Like if anybody was in doubt, this is it. This is the binder. Focus of attention in musical learning and music performance, a systematic review and discussion of focus, instructions, and outcome measures. That was a good read. Effects of attentional focus on motor performance and physiology in slow motion violin bow control tasks. Yeah, so much in here. Optimizing music learning, exploring how blocked and interleaved practice schedules affect advanced performance. What else? We got the more interesting stuff here. This one's a good one. The plyometric activity as a conditioning to enhance the strength and precision of finger movements in pianists. If you figure out how to apply that one, good on you. That one was a read. So, all right, there's a timer. I'll roll it out, and then I'm just gonna whack a run out of this etude. Let's see how I do. I don't know if it'll play back for you guys. Sorry. No, we're at the backing track. Sound check. Up there. A little memory glitch there at the end, but we're at the end of a very, very long fundamentals session. What did we do? $1.08, hour and 8 minutes. So pretty good. That's the theory. That's everything behind the fundamentals session. None of the speed stuff is in here. That's in perfect picking if you'd like to get that. We, at this time, are still running the 50% off. You can use code PPLaunch to get in there, which is very funny. Perfectpickingcourse.com. We'd love to have you. And that's where we go over the neuroscientific method that I've developed to take whatever your picking motion is at and get it to a very efficient place, and then how to speed it up. And then we've got practice methods, much more than I showed in here today. So yeah, thank you guys for the support. If you got the course, for the views, it's been really awesome to have a video that I worked so hard on, so well received. It really feels good. I mean, like when I write these things, I literally think about like I want to be on my deathbed and like know that I hope people watch these videos like after I'm gone or something. That's the standard that I want, because put something on the internet, it's kind of there for a long time. So it's easy to just get out there and yap for a little bit. But I've gone to so many of these places and just gotten the same answers, and I wanted to go beyond that. So thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. I'll do another run of that thing.